Today I'll be talking about subjectivity and some practices of acknowledgement through the mini death that happens from the transition of objective to subjective. So most of what I got from on this topic of subjective comes from Manis Friedman. I believe I've mentioned him before, but some of the ways he sees it and how I've learned from it is that the objective is the object. It's a verb or a noun. So as a verb, it means to object, to be the limit or the obstacle, to test the theory. And then as a noun, it becomes the edges, the limits. The object means it's, no matter how hard you push it, it's still there. So it's like, what is it that is upright? In how do we learn to deal with this idea of subjective, objective, and it's coming from this angle of so what? I object, so what? Or there's an edge, so what? And it's about a reflection. It requires a distance. So this idea that you could have an edge means you have to be far enough away that you're not also the edge. And so it's like, what is upright? It means to be of service in some ways, to be able to cross that distance from the subject to the object. So to bring object to subject is an idea of the will of pleasure. When you're being admired, it brings admiration. You would like to be more admired. You admire the admiration. The will of pleasure is expansive. Things like beauty and joy radiate. It's a permeating energy versus the energy of the mind is more like the dominant, it's a mentality function. So this subject can radiate. The object is like where the aperture stops down. This is it. Versus the powerhouse idea of broadness is the subject. Subject can keep expanding. The object has a limit. So how do we kind of have permeative actions? And the actions that permeate consider the other. So other here is the object. They consider what I am calling something, what I am objectifying as me, where I'm creating distance. So the actions that dominate are only considering the self. So there's permeating actions which cross the boundary and dominating actions which treat the other like an object. So we bring all of ourself in our deeds because we're actually showing where we are, where all of us is in the distance. And actions matching words leads to integrity, so it realizes or it makes real our thoughts. It validates the thoughts and preferences that led up from potential to actual, what came before. It confirms the choices that preceded the effort or the sacrifice that we call the action. So it solidifies the feelings that led to the action. It's the will. It's the will, which now produces consequences and has impact. It has to impact an object. If it can make a change, it's no longer the subject. The actor might be the subject and the object is who we're acting upon. And so it makes it, making it important where I can actually, while I can, literally makes it important. So when I have the choice to make something important and I choose to make it important, I'm not objectifying it, I am permeating through it. That satisfies the need to transcend the human self filled with labels and definitions, or the tendency to objectify. And so the way he sort of brings this out in his words is, how do we learn to find pleasure in activity? How do we bring pleasure into action, permeate the actions of other? And he says we can learn these things through things like we can find pleasure in learning, in observation, in rhythm like music, and even in altruism, because we stop needing the object. As the pleasure itself grows and radiates, we become more involved in what it is that we're acting on. And then we become more connected to ourselves. So I thought, let me put this into myself, and I would like to say there's the mini death of the aspect of the self that has an object. So I was willing yesterday, and it caused me to go inward, and I said, what am I ready to let go of? What mini death can I hold space for so that I can have more distance of who I am? And I'm ready to let go of taking responsibility for others' abilities. This has been an issue in my life for so long, whether they're able to respond or instead of react. And part of me doesn't want to let go of everyone I care for, especially somebody very close to me, a loved one, who I consider a best friend or partner or roommate, or it's so hard to say, who we take a lot of space because we don't have the skills to cross that space, to cross that gap. So we make the space, it makes it important. You follow, I'm taking what he said and making it real. And when it means that others have to choose, that they may choose to stay in their old patterns, I'm afraid I have to go into new territory without them. I don't know who I'll be if I'm not the loyal helper. And I encourage you to write a mini death of an aspect of yourself where you need objects in order to maintain. You need edges. You need people to help, people who are reacting before you could fully show up without that. And then after I did this, I realized there's some acknowledgements I have to make. And there's two of them. The first is that it's really hard transition for me to stop explaining the reasons for things for people to increase their understanding, instead of letting them figure it out for themselves from their own observation at their own pace. So if I can stop objectifying people to be any different than me, and if I let them figure it out the way I need to, at their own pace the way like I need to, and I don't want to be explained to all the time. So the way I objectify another is that distance. So that's one way I can acknowledge I may objectify people. And second is it's hard for me to accept the struggle, because if I see how hard I've been trying to find shared understanding and meaning, I want people to be at my pace and knowing the same things, it makes me want to give up and stop trying. So that's important for me to recognize I need to be around like-minded people. I need to be around like-hearted people. And I made that effort today. I connected with people who could understand where I'm coming from. And I had a very tremendous shock earlier today. And I have to share this for the sake of transparency. A issue with this person I mentioned escalated. It became physical. And he's not around me now because the police had to arrest him. And it was so scary. There's so many mixed feelings. This is someone I love who I can't help, I can't control, I can't fix. And at the same time, I can only take responsibility for myself. So I cannot objectify him. I have to let this become where my actions are bridging the gap. My words are bridging the gap. I take accountability for my role in this. And that's day by day. That's today what I can know. And, that's where I'll leave it. And I wish you less objectification, the courage to acknowledge and let go of whatever you need to.